Welcome to Film Strip, movie reviews presented by Continuous Play Podcast. These podcasts are spoiler-filled as we discuss the plots, characters, and themes of the films in review. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
And I'm Nick.
And this is our review of Planet of Dinosaurs, starring James Whitworth, Pamela Bottaro, Louis Lawless, Harvey Shane, Charlotte Spear, Chuck Pennington, Demo Wild, Michael Thayer, and Mary Appleseth. Directed by James Shea. Released in 1977, 78, and 79, depending on what country you're from. Extremely low budget. And I have no idea if they actually ever made any money off this. It's been on DVD several times. But, Nick, we've been doing movies from the 90s and things like that. And then you brought this to me, and I just have to ask, where did you find this?
Well, I figured we had to go back to the 70s. We've only really discussed I want to say one movie from the 70s, and that would probably be Alien, unless my memory is incorrect here. But I figured we should do another seminal classic from the late 70s, and Planet of the Dinosaurs came to mind. A little background on this movie, since I haven't even told you this story, was I remember as a child, and you would probably remember these at the mall. Remember Suncoast Video?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, remember they had Suncoast Video, Sam Goody, all those video CD stores that were just such rip-offs. I mean, it'd be so much money to buy anything there. But for Christmas, I got a gift card to Suncoast Video. And now, mind you, I was 9 years old. So I go there and I bought two movies. I bought Aliens and I bought Planet of the Dinosaurs. I saw it. I liked the cover art, and I was like, I want to see this. So I used my gift card. I had a $40 gift card. Had to borrow a little money from my mom because back then VHSs were pretty expensive.
I was about to say, you put some money on this then. So.
I did, man. I put a big investment into this movie, and this was one of these movies that was on a constant rotation at my house. When we were talking about what movie we're going to do next, and I threw this out there. I don't even know where this came from. I think it was kind of like a running joke, kind of like Congo was for me on Facebook. So I'm like, hey, let's do Planet of the Dinosaurs. And when I started to watch this, I actually watched it from a hotel room earlier this week. I knew every little part of this. It all started coming back to me. It was I haven't rode a bike in 4 years, but I guarantee if I got on a bike, I know how to ride it. And it's the same thing with this movie where I knew every little beat, every character, lines from this movie, dinosaurs encounters, and it's pleasant memories from my childhood. I just remember watching this on our, our 27-inch tube TV in the family room that had one of those big giant oak stands. You probably still use that, Jay. But,
no, but I know what one looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. So I we had our, what was that? Our Toshiba VHS player that my dad bought in 84.
They probably spent about $300 on, so.
Oh, he spent $500 on that thing. It was a top of the line VHS player. And I just remember just watching this movie. It was this movie, Batman, and I think Aladdin were the three movies I just watched over and over and over again. And then of course we had HBO for a little bit, and I'm getting to weird tangents here, but I remember when we used to get the free HBO every 3 months. My dad used to just record HBO all the time. It was we just record. We used to go get tons of VHS tapes and just record. So I remember having a bunch of Indiana Jones movies on rotation, but somehow this one always found its way in on Saturday mornings. Our Saturday morning routines was get up, do our homework, clean our room, and then I'd have the rest of the day to watch movies. And I'd probably watch this one probably once a month.
Wow.
So I've seen this movie dozens of times. Dozens of times.
That's amazing because, like I said, I had no idea this even existed. I don't even think I had spent time just blowing by it, in late night cable. It looked to me like something that would have been on Mystery Science Theater, and maybe it has been. I don't know.
It actually, neat tidbit, this was the first movie that Mystery Science Theater did.
That is amazing.
It is, and it was actually I think and correct me if I'm wrong. Someone probably will, but It was the pilot episode for Mystery Science Theater 3000, and it had actually like a different robot. It wasn't like the standard robots that are in that show. It was like there was like a different robot that was reviewing this movie. So this movie, I mean, it does have a little bit of a cult following. I think the budget for this movie was like $1 million, and it's just one of these old throwback movies that uses a lot of that stop motion animation for the dinosaurs, which I find so cool. I love that.
I love the old Ray Harryhausen stuff, Clash of the Titans, Jason and the Argonauts, all that stuff. So that's why I was surprised I had never seen the thing, because I'm a fan of that kind of stuff too, but I had missed this one completely, like I said. And this feels like the kind of movie that had been made or was slated to be made and then got thrown into production quick when Star Wars came out and just blew everybody's mind. Or after, Star Wars became a hit, it got re-released and repackaged, 2 or 3 times. I said it was released, several different times through the years in the 70s there. So it feels like the post-Star Wars 70s sci-fi boom and all the stuff that came out in it. And I mean, the only little bit of background I could find on it was that they decided to spend most of the money, if not all of it, on the special effects, which what do you think? This is an hour and 24 minutes long. There may be 7 minutes of the film, and the rest of it, they just got no name. Like, I've never heard of a single one of these actors. I don't think I've seen any one of them in anything else. I have no idea who any of these people are. So, like, if you're listening to me do the intro credits there, folks, and you're like, who in the hell is that? That's exactly what I said. I had no idea who any of these people are. They could have been porn stars from the Valley for all I knew in the 70s. I've never seen any of these people.
Very well could have been. I mean, I think this movie was probably, this was kind of created, I think, on like the tail end of like the Planet of the Apes spectacle. We got the 5 original Planet of the Apes movies, and this one is, I mean, let's be honest, as opposed to being apes on a planet, this is dinosaurs. It's the exact same plot as Planet of the Apes, but just swap apes with dinosaurs for the most part.
Yeah, almost entirely. You're dead on with that. And to me, there's some fun to be had in this kind of kitsch and stuff, and we'll see if this is holds up. I think you've brought up something interesting though, as childhood memories. I have had such a weird turn as an adult, going back to things that I loved as a child, and then realizing how really bad a lot of it was. And some of it has held up, sure, but some of it is like, gads, why did I like that one? And I just can't go back to it. So it's neat that this holds up for you even all these years later, that you still like it, and that you knew it so well. Because like I said, I watched this through, and it's on YouTube, by the way, folks. So you can watch it. I guess it's out of print or whatever. Nobody really cares to keep it with the copyright on it now, I guess. But you can watch it, and we'll talk about some of the production value there. And I want to know if it's a part of the YouTube transfer or if it just is that poorly shot. But we'll get into it as we go. I think we need to do a plot summary here, though. And I've got the scantest of plot summaries for you here, Nick. I mean, this may take the record for the shortest one ever that we have. Okay.
How about this, Jay? Let me just I know you got one written down. Let me just kind of wing this.
Okay, go for it.
Let's see how it goes. Okay. So we got a group of astronauts, and they're flying in outer space, and a malfunction happens, and the spaceship, they decide that they got to get out the spaceship, and they get onto basically like think of like Alien with the Nostromo. They get on the space shuttle, and they go to the nearby planet, and they crash land into some water. The crew survives it, but slowly, one by one, they start getting picked off by what turns out to be dinosaurs. It turns out this planet that they land on is similar to Earth. Think of like a planet that is juvenile to what Earth was, 65 million years ago, and they land on it during that time. Same evolution pattern. And as I said, they all get picked off one by one by the dinosaurs, and it turns out the big bad of this movie, of course, is the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So towards the end of the movie, they decided they got to band together to kill the T-Rex in order to be able to survive. So with a kind of the world's dumbest plot, they decide to lure the T-Rex out of its cave, because we all know, paleontology has shown us that T-Rexes lived in caves. But the T-Rex then chases after them, and they set up a big giant spear, which the T-Rex runs into. They kill the T-Rex. End of the movie is that they're all living in, they set up a little civilization for themselves. One of the couples there has a kid, and they don't care if they're going to be rescued anymore, because they've made this now their new home. End of movie.
But bravo, sir, bravo from the hip. I will tell you, folks, we generally write the plot summary down. Nick did that from nothing. Like that. That's amazing that you know this that well. Because I was going to say a space shuttle crashes, dinosaurs are there, and they decide to kill the big one. The end. Oh, and they walk around a lot, because that happens quite a bit. But I think you gave us a lot more details. So let's get into this though. Just right from that opening shot. I see why you get an Alien feel off of this, because I felt the twinges of the opening shots of Alien and Aliens when the big craft is going overhead and it's silent. It's not really an action shot as much as it's just an overpowering scene, and then we get on the bridge with the captain and somebody else, and there's another female person there, and I don't know what everybody's role is. That's one thing I'm confused about, so maybe you can clear that up for me. What exactly is the mechanical function?
I don't know what the ship's doing out there. They never really established that. I'm thinking something more along the lines of like Star Trek. It's just like an exploration vehicle, spaceship out there. And how you can tell the characters apart is that every male and female are almost like duos, and they all have the same outfit on. So think almost like Star Trek, about how there's like the red shirts and the blue shirts, and they all have like match. There's different colors for what they're doing.
Well, yeah, in this case, there's the shirtless guy, but there's not the shirtless girl.
I know, which is disappointing, but we do get one that's kind of close. But you got the two captains of the ship, the guy with the mustache, and then the girl with the short hair. They're kind of the ones in command. And then you got like your maintenance crew, which is the ones in blue, which is you have the guy with the beard, and then you have when I say maintenance, it's kind of like support, where you have the girl in the blue who is the doctor, and then you have the two people in yellow. Or not in yellow. I forget what color they were in, but you have the big guy, and then you have
it's kind of a brown orange thing, yeah.
Yeah. And then you got the other female who doesn't last very long, and then you got the like president. Let's just call this guy like. No,
he's very clearly the vice president or whatever of the company, because he keeps saying that all the time. He's the vice president of Spaceways Incorporated. Lee is his name. That's all I can remember.
Yeah, terrible haircut, porn star mustache, and then he's got his scantily clad secretary.
Right.
So they all get into the space shuttle, and they crash land on this planet. They have some minor troubles as they're going down. They're going into this planet too fast, and they end up crashing into the water. They escape out of it. They take a couple ray guns with them, and then a radio. Yeah, they jump into the water, and
hold on about the ray guns for a second. Let's talk about the ray guns here, okay? They look like a vacuum canister with a clear rod stuck on the end of them. That's what we're talking about here. It's like the kind of ray gun I would make up playing as a kid. Like I made my own, space weapons and things like that. So I found some charm in that though, because they sold it like it was a big deal. Like only touch it here and don't do this here. And at one point, one of them was like, "You gave that to a civilian? Why?" And I thought, well, you know what? I kind of like the fact that they have to act like this prop is really a big deal. So it was. I mean, they're hilarious.
Yeah, they make a big deal out of these guns, but these guns are like the most worthless guns ever made.
Yeah, I don't know whether anyone does anything good with them. I think it blinds a dinosaur once temporarily or something, but we can get into that later. But no, we do get that early scene though where it's Mary Appleseth is her name, and that's the actress that decides Cindy is the character's name. I'm going back to get the radio. It's my job to get the radio. So she of course does the striptease, and then down to underwear, and then gets in the water. And I loved that not only does she get eaten from beneath by something we don't see, but the music is even a ripoff of Jaws. I mean, that is a total Jaws ripoff.
Totally. I mean, it's a hilarious scene because, of course, she's got to strip down to her underwear. I mean, this is one of the funniest parts of the movie is they all jumped into the water in their suits. They get to the beach, and then they realize that the radio transmitter that they need to be able to send out into outer space to be able to get rescued is still out in this lake. So they're like, oh, we got to go back out there. So like her and the big guy, they decide they got to strip down into their their underoos and get back in there. But it's like your suit's already wet.
Yeah, Chuck is this guy's name. When you talk about Chuck, because Chuck is actually named after the actor that he's played. His name is Chuck Pennington. And so a lot of times the character name is the same as the actress that's playing them, and it's probably because they couldn't remember what they were supposed to be called. And so Chuck is the bare-chested guy.
Confusing. He probably been like, they're talking to, maybe his name was like Max or something. And Max, and it's like, dude, you're not paying attention when we call you Max. Let's just call him Chuck.
Just call him Chuck and be done with it. Yeah. So I mean, Chuck, makes it back to land, but without the radio. By the way, they don't get this radio, and that's kind of a big deal because that was the whole purpose of that. So Cindy has died for nothing.
Yeah, and I find it so funny because like this guy, he's like the big muscle guy of the group, and like they're out there, he's swimming. He probably swims out about 30 feet before the other girl gets eaten, and then he swims back, and he's just like he's all out of breath and laying there on the beach. He's like, and it's like, dude, my 8-year-old could swim that no problem and not be out of breath, but you are just completely out of breath, just like laying on the beach, and everybody's like coming, like, oh, we've got to help him. Oh, he's out of breath. Oh, he's hyperventilating, and it's like,
give him credit. He did just crash land through the atmosphere. No telling how long they've been in space. I mean, who knows what the atmosphere's like here? It's not exactly like Earth, right? I mean, maybe the air's thin.
Yeah, they're just trying to add it for dramatic effect.
Oh, of course they are.
It's funny though, but
I'll say this is the first 5 minutes of this movie, and it's preposterous already. But if I'm going in knowing like this is low rent, bozo, classy sci-fi from the 70s, I will say this: it's charming and funny. Like at least they're not trying to force too much techno babble on me, because that's a weakness of a lot of films of this era, I think, where they try to like be so serious, and this film is not serious at all. Like, it doesn't take itself seriously one bit, and that's what makes it fun to follow, because it's when they're trying to over explain everything in one of these films that I just get really done with, and this one doesn't do that at all.
This is like a movie that was written by like a 12-year-old. It really is. I mean, it's just like it goes from point to point to point to point. So after the underwear girl dies, it's not really the group gets over it pretty quick. They get over every death pretty quick in this movie.
Yeah, no one's really close with anybody. I mean, I could tell like they've been in space for God knows how long, and they're like, okay.
Yeah, but the truth is they're coworkers, and it sucks. I worked with them, but I didn't really like them. So
yeah. There's that whole thing like I have work friends, and then I have friends, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and that's what they are. They're all work friends. So anyway, after she dies, they decide that they gotta go hiking somewhere. I don't know why, but they gotta go. They gotta get out of there.
Well, they actually make a decision. I remember this. I wrote it down. They make a decision to surviving is the primary goal, and they explore the planet for a bit. And like they drop a laser gun, in the swamp, and the gun's unusable now. And they see a brontosaurus in this, and they see like the tracks for it and all this. And that's when they realize our best bet is to get to the high ground, because we're gonna get killed if we don't. If we stay in the path and the lowlands of these things, not knowing that, of course, as we learn, the dinosaurs, of course, inhabit the plateaus as well. But that's when they get through the heaviest bit of exposition, is they do the whole like life scan on the planet and realize that it's, like you said, 65 million or whatever years behind Earth's evolutionary track. So it's like another Earth, but it's just, it's the baby Earth or whatever. And a lot of the, foliage is poisonous, and so they can't eat it. And so they, they're trying to figure out what to do, and they don't have a lot of food, and they start going through rations. And I love that they do this whole bit about like, what the ration consists of that you could live through. It's like someone describing a meal ready to eat, an MRE for the military, which in the words of Crocodile Dundee, you can live on it, but it tastes like shit.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, the gun thing is just it's hilarious in this. What happens is the secretary of the vice president, she's just kind of like one of these basket cases, and the skinny guy with the mustache decides to give her a gun to calm her down. I mean, this is like the freaking GOP dream right here. It's like, hey, take the gun. It's going to make everything all right. So they're walking, of course, across this little pond, and then she falls in, and the gun, I mean, these are the most worthless guns in the world. It gets a little wet, and it's completely shot, and like the captain, this guy with the God, every guy here has got the mustache besides or got facial hair besides the muscle guy. And I just laugh right here. I'm just like, man, this is something out of the NRA, because he's like, our chances of survival is now down by one gun.
Yeah, Jim is like, it could have been played by Charlton Heston's like brother or something. It's all about the weapons, even though we haven't seen them work yet, and what little we've seen of them has been completely ineffective. Like they don't do anything with them. They don't seem to be able to really use them.
So we as you mentioned, we get through our first scene with the Brontosaurus. They fall asleep in the most awkward positions, and the bearded guy wakes up, and he wakes up the captain. He's like, "You got to come take a look at this." And they see the Brontosaurus. What did you think about the stop motion?
You know what? I actually thought it was really well done. And the smart thing they did is they limited the number of shots, and there's a few, and we'll talk about them when they happen, but they limited the number of shots where the actors are in frame with the things, because clearly it's miniatures and, working against rear projection or forward projection and stuff like that. But I thought for its time, that didn't look very bad. I mean, it looked pretty good. I dare say, fast forward 4 years to Clash of the Titans, which is a childhood favorite of mine. Maybe one day we could revisit that. And the stop motion of there is not any better. I mean, it's just as good. I think it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think it kind of holds up. I mean, it's got that, obviously it's stop motion, so it's not going to look realistic, but it's got a really kind of a cute charm, I guess you could say.
You know what it reminded me of, Nick? If you've ever seen Godzilla 1985 with Burl Ives and all that kind of stuff in it, not Burl Ives, Raymond Burr, and I remember that one.
Movie, Jay.
No, we didn't, because that never got released. Remember? So yeah,
that's one of those secret shows. That's
now I got to cut that out because nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. So back that up for just a second here. So no, I mean, if you've ever seen Godzilla 1985 with Raymond Burr in it, it kind of reminded me of that. Which I think that is mostly a guy in a suit, but there's some stop motion in there, and I like stop motion. I mean, it also reminded me of the game Chewbacca plays on the Millennium Falcon game table. It looked like creatures from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. But after they see the Brontosaurus, they realize that, this is like a prehistoric Earth, and that they got to get to the high grounds to be able to
we got to talk, though, about Chekhov's berries, because I kept waiting for these poison berries, like for somebody to get desperate and try them anyway and die, and like nobody did that. I kept waiting for that. Now, they do use it in the end, because apparently the stake that kills the T-Rex is laced with those, as if driving a huge stake through it wouldn't. I mean, we're talking about, like, folks, it's like a fort fence post that the thing runs through. It would have killed it from the blunt force trauma of that, but it needed to be poisoned too. So it was, but they set up these poison berries. They spend time on them enough, because I mean, they're going to do something in a minute where they lose part of their food. So you're going to start to realize how desperate times are becoming.
Yeah, well, when they're climbing up that, the one girl with the short hair, she drops the food rations off the cliff, and they're like, well, we're not going to go down there and get them. So they decide to keep on going on, and then they just, they discover that, I think it's some of the berries are poisonous, but some of them are not, because they make wine out of the berries, though, too, later.
Right, yeah, there are some that are and some that aren't. They've got some sort of contraption that still works, apparently, and is figured out for them, this is poisonous, this is not. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that piece of technology survived, because that's a convenient piece to keep around.
Yeah. Well, we didn't want this movie ending like the Blue Lagoon. So.
Well, it kind of does anyway. I mean, but we'll get there when we get there. But
can we do that one next?
If you're talking about the Lifetime remake, Ron will join us. But another day. The one thing that I love about this, though, is that the Vice President of Spaceways, Harvey, who's also played by Harvey Shane, discovers a nest of eggs, right? And they're centrosauruses, which are basically, they look like rhinoceroses. They look like rhinoceroses, right? Just with longer tails or whatever. And
yeah, I mean,
he steals an egg, and he's like, he's like, it's eggs Benedict for us, baby, for years or whatever. And then she's like, well, I don't know if we can take those or not. And then sure enough, here comes the thing out of the cave after him. And this is when this movie gets to be hilarious to me, because there's a miniature T-Rex attacking at that point. There's the centaurs, and as he is running away, Harvey gets impaled on this thing and thrown to the ground. And the next shot is of him, like, he's supposed to have landed miles below, or a mile below or whatever, not not mile, or hundreds of feet below, right? But he just sort of lays back from the back of a bush. And I'm like literally rolling in the floor. I'm watching this on my tablet in my bed, and I'm just cracking up the whole time because I was like, this movie is so full of crap, and it is hilarious how all of this is going off.
It is, and I find some of these like character interactions even before that just to be just so funny and how cheesy it is, because he's got this secretary and she's dressed like in this like 70s disco garb with just like the tummy top and the bell bottom.
Yeah, I know. She looks like she's working at Studio 54.
Exactly.
Not for the best vice president
like,
of anybody.
And you could tell like he's obviously hired her because whatever. And he's like ordering around like, you'll get me water. And then they got the skinny mustache guy. He's like, you don't have to go get him water. And he's like, you go get me water. I'm vice president. I can dock you toupee and stuff. And it's just like almost like this like female empowerment where she's like, no, you don't need to protect me. I can do what I want to do. And she throws a water bottle back at him and stuff. And then he ends up getting killed anyways. So
right. Well, it was the 70s. I mean, that's true. So, now we need to say something here. We've skipped about 25, 30 minutes of the movie where they're doing nothing but walking up and down the canyons in Carlsbad, California. There are extended scenes of these people walking up and down canyon floors. Like it's like a spelunking documentary thrown in the middle of an 84-minute movie.
Well, just imagine. I mean, they're obviously like filming this movie like in New Mexico or something like that, and or Utah, and all you do is you get like far away like panoramic shots of them, and it's like this music's going on all the time where it's like God, the score here is hilarious. It is so cheap. It's like stock score from some bad Italian horror movie or something. I do love the opening score though, when the movie credits go on and you got like this like dinosaur music going on. I think that is kind of cool. But anyways, yeah, I mean that's like 20, like you said, like 25, probably like 45 minutes to an hour. This movie is just them walking,
which lets me know. Like I'm realizing that a lot of films I've seen since this one was made have ripped off elements of it, and now I know where Peter Jackson
got all the rings.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going there. I was like, Peter Jackson. I know that's a lot of those books too, but Peter Jackson was intent. No, we must show the walking. I bet you he is a fan of this too, if you come down to it. But it is a lot of just walking around. And what I realize is that the story here is really thin, so they've got to do something to pad the time. I mean, it's barely 80 minutes without the credits. So, I mean, they've got to do something here.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's just a lot of walking. But anyway, so the one guy gets killed by the Triceratops or whatever you want to call it. And then they continue on, and then we get introduced to the big bad of the movie, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's the group runs into a Stegosaurus, or is it a Stegosaurus?
It is a Stegosaurus. It's not a very well rendered one, but it is a Stegosaurus. Years before the Lost World would do this same battle, we get it here.
Yep. So the group runs into the Stegosaurus, and then they run into the T-Rex, and then the T-Rex and the Stegosaurus decide to battle it out. And it's just, again, another hilarious scene because they all go running, and then like they just kind of like stop, and then they're all just kind of like laying on these rocks, just going like, oh my God.
There is a hilarious gif on the internet of the T-Rex like walking toward one of the dark-haired females, and it looks like he is like trying to lift her skirt up, like if just going back and forth with it, like they're rocking the film back and forth. It is hilarious. Okay, now I'm not making light of assault. It is funny. I mean, because the expression on her face, she's like, I'm supposed to be scared of what? Because clearly there's nothing in front of her when they're shooting this, and they mat it together later, and this is when the effects really don't work. I mean, they never work in any movie almost ever because it's so hard to match those things right. You don't get the size right, it doesn't look right, but I'll say it is hilarious to see it rendered because it's so preposterous that I'm just sitting there with a big smile on my face going, this is the dumbest thing I've seen in a long time, but I'm having a good time with it. And I thought he was going to eat her. Like I was waiting for like the blood effects, because the blood effects on RV are really bad, and the little clay man that gets thrown off the thing looks nothing like where his injuries end up. I was waiting for him to like bite her head off, and it didn't happen. Like he gets away because one of the other ones shoots it with a laser that seems to mildly irritate it.
Yep, I think this is like an Allosaurus or something. It's like a smaller T-Rex, or maybe even like a baby T-Rex. And this is later after they run into the T-Rex, and they're still trying to make camp or trying to figure stuff out, and the doctor woman gets attacked by an Allosaurus, and then the muscle guy ends up like throwing a spear at it. Then he's down there and he's got like a hand over her, and he's got the other hand with like a knife, and he's just like trying to keep the dinosaur off. And then all of a sudden the bearded guy shows up and he shoots it with a laser, and it goes and runs away. So
I mean, it's funny like the way all that goes down, but it's this tense scene. But the thing, it's buttoned on by the super intense like da-da-da-da-da, psycho rip-off type music that's underneath it. Like I'm laughing my head off the whole time at this, because again it looks like something that you would watch on a Saturday morning. I'm glad you said that was a thing for you, because it looks like something I would need like a bowl of frosted Rice Krispies to go through.
Yes, this would be something that's so good with watching like Land of the Lost back in the day.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's like one of those old shows like that. That's a good callback. Yeah.
But as you know, we're not really getting that depth into this movie because
there's no depth to get into.
There's nothing going on here.
You know what? You've hit it. This is a 30-minute episode of Land of the Lost with just a lot of walking scenes tacked into it.
Yeah, you could literally cut all those walking scenes out and actually have a pretty good half-hour episode of Land of the Lost.
Or an episode of like Battlestar Galactica where they all beam down, below. Or this is what happens on SETI Alpha 4 or what the hell ever. I mean, it's that kind of thing.
So as they continue on, they realize that this T-Rex is going to become a problem for them. They find its cave, and or what happens is one night they're kind of again making camp, and then you got the Studio 54 girl ends up getting killed by the T-Rex. Yeah. And that's when they decide that, hey, we got to take care of this guy because he's the alpha predator of this planet, and we got to take him out to be able to survive here. So they go and they find its lair. He's living in a cave.
Which is also when you realize this is a very American film, because Americans go to a new place and the first thing they decide to do is kill the biggest thing of the indigenous species so that they can then take over.
Jay, it's like going to prison. It's like, the first thing you got to do is find the biggest guy there and kick his ass. I mean, they're doing the same thing.
I will remember that if I have to go to prison. So I hope I don't have to. But yeah, or you do like Andy Dufresne and you just chisel your way through a wall. But either way, you got to.
The T-Rex did. The T-Rex chiseled his way through a wall, and now it's a cave.
Yeah, exactly. He's riding. That's what I wanted to know. I'm like, why the T-Rex would pick a cave? I don't know, but whatever. It's funny, and no, I love their plot though. Like they not only think we're going to take this thing out, they find a dead dinosaur and they smear it with the poison berries. They're like, we're going to leave it as like bait so that the T-Rex will eat it, and then it just takes care of it for us. But the T-Rex, like, apparently not only has great sight, because they've done this gag before where the T-Rex is coming after one of them, and they lay down like a shiny reflective thing, like a solar, what do you call those things? The solar panels. That's not what it is. They lay down like one of those reflectors that you put in your windshield when you're trying to keep the sun out, right? And it blinds the T-Rex, and its little arm tries to go up by its eye, which I really thought was cute at one time. So they think they can trick this thing into doing it, but the T-Rex apparently has great hearing too, because he's decided that, no, I'm going to come up from behind while you're walking in front of my cave. I'm coming in the back door. And that's when he springs his attack. So they do this whole poison dinosaur walk, which is another 10-minute walk up the stairs, basically, for nothing. Like, that never comes into fruition at all. That plan completely backfires because Mike gets killed at that point, and the backup plan was the captain's plan, which is let's have big sticks for it to run into. And all I was reminded of there was some of the way that Conan the Barbarian set up traps for Thulsa Doom's army when it came after him and that other little dude. They had a lot of sticks for him to run into. It was, but they were hidden. Like, these are like out in the open is what's funny.
Yeah, this T-Rex is smart when it needs to be, and it's dumb when it needs to be. So they decide that, that's going to be the plan, is that they're going to kill the T-Rex by having it, run into, by spearing it or having it run into this stuff. So they go to the cave and they lure it out by yelling at him, and he comes out, he chases after him, and the T-Rex ends up pulling like a Jaws 4 and going right into the spear. And just this big giant spear goes right into its belly, and then he ends up falling on the beard guy. And you think that the beard guy's dead, but he turns out he's alive. He's like, "Get me out of here!" Blah blah blah, because he's being laid on by the T-Rex. And that's basically the movie.
Yeah, two things that you caught there that I loved, though, from other movies. The Jaws 4 ending and the original one where the shark bleeds to death and doesn't explode inexplicably. Yeah, the Jaws 4 ending and the guy that has to crawl out at the end, that's Ron Perlman at the end of Pacific Rim. And he has to crawl out of that creature, the kaiju thing.
Yep. But so the T-Rex is dead, and I guess that's the only T-Rex in this planet or in this area.
That's what I wanted to know. How did you know that's the only one? I mean, what gives them that, I don't know, hope?
No idea. That's all the budget could call for was one T-Rex. So they spring forward, some distance in time, and the doctor woman had a kid, and she's teaching the kid how to count, and yay, the kid counts really well. And the short-haired woman's like, "Oh, do you think we'll ever?" Or no, the doctor tells the short-haired lady, she's like, "Oh, do you think we'll ever be rescued?" And the short-haired lady's just like, "I don't think it matters anymore." And
yeah,
that's the movie.
What's amazing is they've maintained, like, their costumes have changed a little, like they've just torn off pieces of them, but they look the same. This looks like 12 minutes later or something. Nothing else has changed. The only clothes these people have are what they came there with, and they've got like a log cabin and a farm and everything set up. I'm like, you people are resourceful. I'll give you that much. I was impressed by their ability to adapt to harsh surroundings. So I guess the word got out to the other dinosaurs, like, we're just going to leave these people alone because clearly they mean business. They took out Tim, the T-Rex, and that's all it took. But, no, that is the ending, and that is not what I expected. I thought, when all hope was finally lost, then I really thought another spaceship was going to come down and, like, shoot the T-Rex, and that would be their rescue. And I guess they didn't have the money for that effect or whatever, but I really wanted that to happen, I think.
It's a survival story, and man's willing to live, in the harshest type of environments. So, but yeah, that's the movie. Like I said, there's really not much as far as plot. It's just basically walking, dinosaur attack, walking, dinosaur attack, walking, dinosaur attack, walking, dinosaur attack, the end. So.
Yeah, it's really very simple. Again, I said this is a good 30-minute movie buried around a lot of walking around. I think we're at the point of the podcast where it's time to give final thoughts, recommendations, popcorn ratings. I'm pretty sure you love this. I'm just really curious to hear what kind of popcorn rating you're going to give this piece of 70s schlock, Nick.
Oh, I'm gonna give it a medium popcorn. I can't give it a large popcorn because it's not a good movie. It holds a special place in my heart, but it's not a bad movie. It's extremely watchable. Even the stuff with the walking and the character interactions is that it's charming in a way, just because it's not taking itself seriously, but it's not making a joke out of it. It's just like this weird in between that, and it just makes it so watchable. I think the special effects are pretty good, and to me this is a story that, like, you and, like, your friends would have came up with at being 9 years old on the school playground, and just pretending there's dinosaurs around you, and just kind of coming up, just having fun. And that's just what this movie is it's just it's a fun little movie, one that it's good on, like, probably a Saturday morning. You wake up, just want to throw something on, before you get out of bed, just drinking your coffee. It's a fun little movie. So for me, it's a solid medium popcorn. It's a lot better than some of those paranormal activity movies that we reviewed. So
I'll say this about this. I don't know that I can give it medium popcorn, because to me, medium popcorn, like I've explained before, is either something that's really middling, like it's just not any fun, and it kind of drags, it's boring, or it's something that had so much potential and it just fails miserably at it, but there's something to enjoy in it. This movie, to me, doesn't do any of that. I think it's small popcorn, but it's the good kind of small popcorn. It's that Saturday matinee small popcorn that you used to get when you were a kid. There's a charm to this. That's a great word for it, Nick. There's a charm to this film that cannot be denied. And I think it's best watched with a group of people that want to watch something that's unintentionally hilarious, and have a good time with it. I think that's the way you are to consume this movie. And if you do it that way, you can have a good time with it. I'll give it a small, but it's not a bad small popcorn. I think it's a good small popcorn in that way. And it's a ton of fun to watch. And you know, again, it doesn't take itself too seriously, so you don't have to take it very seriously. That's the best part of it, is this film has no pretension about itself whatsoever. The pretentious characters get it. They go down, and, you know, which is exactly what you want to happen to, you know, the VP of Vice President Spaceways and all that crap. You want people like that to get their comeuppance, and he sure enough does, and they all do, and I think that's admirable. So I'll give him an A for an attempt at doing something cool for effects that hold up, and the rest of it's a big D. But that's okay, because you can still graduate with that, and then we move on.
Definitely, I think, you know, this movie it's a fun movie if you have like a little boy.
Yeah, I could see your son eating this up. Yeah,
just something that you can just kill, you know, an hour and a half. You can just totally just. Like I said, just you wait into, you know, you got to go out for dinner in a little bit, and you just throw this movie on with your kid, and you just sit there and just buy the time watching this. They'll have fun. It's something that's not, like you said, don't take it too seriously. It's just a schlocky little fun movie.
Exactly, and sometimes schlock can be a good time. So we both agree it's good. We give it different ratings on Popcorn, but I think we both say, yeah, it's definitely a watch and give it. And that wraps up our review here on this one, Nick. And yeah, we got a couple of interesting ones coming up next for us. The next time you're back on the show here in Springapalooza, where we're really kind of hitting around on a lot of genres and things. I mean, goodness, we've done, you know, all those Michael Crichton 90s type of disaster movies. Not all of them, but those were a lot of the ones we did. And then now we've done this, and you know, Kurt and I've done 7. We've got The Usual Suspects coming up later on this spring. You and I are going to do a couple of Michael Douglas steamy thrillers next. Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct. Really looking forward to talking about those with you.
Never seen them before.
Oh, this will be fun then. I did not realize that until this moment. So this will be an interesting introduction. I'm a fan of... two things when it comes to the steamy thriller. Either it's incredibly sleazy, and so it's just funny unintentionally, or there's actually something good there, and there's a good dramatic story. And I think we get both of those things, not to tip my hand too much, but we get those in those next two films. Looking forward to talking about those. Of course, folks, you can find those coming up on our iTunes feed in the coming weeks, and then you can find all of our episodes on iTunes or on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com. Click the link for Film Strip and movies, and you'll see all the stuff we've got in there. The Paranormal Activity series Nick mentioned. We've done, you know, Critters, Hellraiser. We've done Alien. All of those. Tremors is in there. Terror Vision. I think this movie's in the line of Terror Vision, one of those fun kind of schlocky movies. There's another one. And we've done a little bit of everything. You go all the way back, like way back. We even did those Ghostbusters movies. Like, that's our first retrospective. And I'll tell you now, like, we've gotten a lot better at this since those shows, but there's that new one coming up. So if you want to listen to those, you can do that and get yourself ready. But all that stuff there on our website. And hey, give us a review on iTunes. Let us know what you think. Hook up with us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We appreciate your support. Till next time, for Nick, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Please leave us a positive review on iTunes and link up with us on Facebook. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121.